declare it. There is no one you are. Come on, say, come on. Now go. There is
no one like you. You are holy, holy. There is no one like you. You are holy, holy.
yeah.
Holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. You're holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty.
Let's say there is no one like you. There is no one like you. You are holy, holy. There is
No one like you. You are
oh, there is no one. There is
no one like you. You are holy,
there is no one. You are holy. Say, come on, holy, holy, holy. Lord God Almighty, holy, holy, Lord God. So I'm excited to be here with you guys. My name is Pastor Sam. I'm excited to be able to bring the word to you guys, all of my family in the room. I love to be with you guys. I really do. And I love how the Lord is moving through our family here at Authentic, how he's moving through us, how he's using each and every one of us. New locations, new family members, new worship experiences, Authentic Espanol. Come on, I'm here for this. Somebody lean over to your neighbor and say, I'm here for this. I'm here for this, man. I am excited. I am pumped up. It is Super Bowl Sunday, and I know I'm speaking to the holy ones because you guys came here, instead of watching the game. I'll try to be brief, but you guys are the holy ones. God sees it. Man. But I'm excited that we're in the middle of this collection. Here for this. God is moving, and he's been moving through this collection. And every single week, I'm walking away and I'm saying, man, that message was for me. I don't know about you guys. I've talked to several people who are like, yeah, that message was so for me. And I think to myself, I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful that I have pastors who care about me, who pray for me. You don't think for just a second, Pastor Matt gets up here and he just throws out some things and luckily it just hits some of us. No. There's some divinity to that. There is a God and he is seeking after his heart, and he's seeking after his heart for each and every one of us. So just, can we take a moment to just give it up for the best pastors in the whole entire world, Pastors Mac and Lisseth. I love you guys. We've been looking at the story of Joseph. And I love the story of Joseph. Matter of fact, when I was a child, one of my favorite movies was this DreamWorks movie called Joseph and the Coat of Many Colors. It was a great film. It was a great movie. As a child, I loved to watch it. Looking at the scriptures and looking at the story of Joseph in the scriptures definitely aren't as musical maybe as the movie was, but I love the movie and I feel like it really captures the story of Joseph and who he was. But I love the story of Joseph because no matter who you are, many of us, if not all of us, can find ourselves within the story of Joseph. Maybe you can't literally find yourself being stripped of your clothes and thrown into a hole or sold into slavery. Maybe you can't literally imagine yourself being there, but I'm sure that many of us in this room have felt like people have stabbed our backs. I'm sure that many of us in this room have felt like we've been abandoned at some point in our life. I'm sure that many of us have felt like we've gone to a new location that is so foreign, that is so different to me, and I didn't know what to do in that moment. We can find ourselves in the story of Joseph. And this is what I know about Joseph, is that Joseph was 100% man. And I think it's so important for us to look at the scriptures, look at people in the Bible in that sort of a way, that they're 100% man, so that we realize they were just like us. He was a human. He had human experiences. He felt the pain just like you felt. He's been where you've been. It makes the scriptures so much more relatable to know that they're talking strictly and specifically to me and you today. Throughout the story of Joseph, one of the things that is a common theme and something that we're hoping to see in the story of Joseph, after he's been sold into slavery, after he's been put into prison, after he's been lied about, all of the things throughout the story of Joseph, one of the things that everyone is sitting on the edge of our seats wondering and hoping is, when will Joseph's life be restored? When will things get back? When will things that were taken away from him be given back to him? And we're sitting here and we're going through this painful story of all of the experiences of Joseph, and we're hoping and we're believing that there will be some restoration. And here's the beauty of it. Today we're going to get to see in our scriptures, and all throughout the scriptures, we see there is restoration. That God's restoration is upon him, that it's for him, that Joseph experiences that restoration. And maybe you're here in this place today and you feel like you've lost some things. Maybe for you today, you feel like you've lost the peace. Maybe for you, you feel like you've lost your relationships. Maybe for you, you feel like you've lost your family. You feel like something has been taken back from you. And here's what I want you to know, that God is the God who restores. And he restores better than you could have ever even imagined it. See, if I was reading the story of Joseph, I would have been okay if Joseph would have just been able to go back with his family. After he'd been sold into slavery and all the things happened, I would have been okay if Joseph would have just been able to get back to the life that he had. But that's not how my God works, because my God's thoughts are higher, my God's ways are better. And so even in my expectation, even in Joseph's expectation, he surpasses each and every one of them. And so the restoration that is coming into your life, I want you to know, you don't even know where it begins. You can't even begin to fathom the kind of restoration that God is bringing to your life right now. The title of my message today is Here for Restoration. Lean over to your neighbor and say, here for restoration. Here for restoration. We're going to be reading out of the scriptures, Genesis chapter 41, verse 53. Go ahead and start turning to it. It'll be up on the screens. I want to catch us up. For many of us who maybe even just be joining the story, where we've just left off in this portion of the story is that Joseph was in prison. He was brought out of prison to interpret the dream of Pharaoh. And now his interpretation of the dream was that Egypt was going to go through 7 really great years, 7 years of abundance. But then on the other end of the dream he interpreted, he shared that Egypt was also going to go through 7 really bad years, 7 years of a famine. And so we pick up the scriptures right here. Genesis chapter 41, verse 53. The 7 years of abundance in Egypt came to an end. Man, don't you hate when good things come to an end? Don't you hate when you just, man, there's something that's so good, or you're watching a show, and then it says to be continued, and you're like, no, or like they take a whole entire season, and then at the end of the season, there's no resolve. It's like, we'll be back someday. I don't even know. Somewhere out there. But I'm like, no, it can't just be over. Good things can't just be over like that. For many of us in this room, we were Cowboys fans. And today is a little bit of a sore subject for us because the Cowboys had one of their best seasons they've had in quite a while. And man, when they were winning, the city was different, wasn't it? I mean, you just go to the grocery store. Man, the lady's bagging my groceries. She used to have a stank face, but now she's like, she's like, I'm bagging your groceries. You know, just all the different places you go, people are just so happy. They're giving out coffee. Like, oh, yeah, my wife is more happy. I'm totally joking. She doesn't know anything about the Dallas Cowboys whatsoever. But the city was just like on fire. They were just excited because we were winning. And I sat and I thought, man, I can't wait for our city to get on fire for a God who never loses. I can't wait for our city to get on fire for a God who's been to the Super Bowl over and over and over. Maybe that's just too normal for us, but can that never become too normal for us? Can we always be excited about the wins of God, that he's winning his people, that he's winning souls, that he's winning eternity for people? That's exciting. That's something for a city to rally around. The Cowboys maybe can come second. Verse 54, and the 7 years of famine began. Just as Joseph had said, there was famine in all other land, but in the whole land of Egypt, there was food. Somebody lean over to your neighbor and say, food. Somebody's stomach's going to start grumbling. When all of Egypt began to feel the famine, the people cried to Pharaoh for food. Then Pharaoh told all the Egyptians, go to Joseph and do what he tells you. In other words, I don't know the plan. I'm the king. I don't know if you've ever been in charge of something and you're like, man, I really don't know what's going on right now. Somebody around here knows, but I definitely don't know. I don't got the plan. Nobody filled me in on the plan. This is where he's at. He's like, go to Joseph. And then verse 57 says this, and all the world came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was so severe everywhere. All of the world, all that they could see, all of the surrounding regions, all around Egypt, came to one man, Joseph, to be able to get grain. And so in that very moment, he becomes the instrument. He becomes the method for restoration for an entire land. He becomes the instrument. He becomes the method for an entire people and for an entire group of people. And maybe that's you in this place right now. Maybe you're going to become the instrument for an entire restoration of your family. Maybe there's some people out there who are surrounded by people right now who are in severe need of restoration, and maybe you have exactly what they need. He becomes the instrument for their restoration. See, I think a lot of times we're okay and we're really excited about the 7 really good years, but the 7 years of famine, that's where it becomes really hard for us to really begin to digest. And here's the beauty in the story that we find here is that God is so intentional. God is so outside of space. He's so outside of time that he actually gives Joseph the solution before the problem even begins. He actually presents restoration before there's even anything to be restored. You see, in 7 years, Joseph stores up so much grain that no one can count all the grain, so that in the 7 bad years, there's restoration for the land. And here's the beauty of it. You might be in a situation right now. You might be in a place right now where God is storing up things. He's pouring out things into you right now so that you might have a plan for restoration when the future comes. There might not even seem to be a problem right now, but in the future, he's storing something up inside of you. And so maybe it's a peace inside of you right now, because in the next season, you might need a peace that surpasses all understanding. He might be storing up a confidence inside of you, because in the next season, he's saying, I'm going to need you to be able to take that into the next season and be so confident and be an instrument for restoration for other people. Restoration is something that flows through us in any time, whether good, whether bad, whether up, whether down, whether famine, whether there's fruit in the land. Restoration is flowing through each and every one of us. Somebody lean over to your neighbor and say, restoration. Restoration. I believe that God oftentimes brings restoration through our preparation. What is God preparing you for right now? What is he preparing you for right now? And I think a lot of times we can get on board and we can get behind this idea that Joseph is the hero. There's always a hero in a story. We love it. I love to see a good hero story. I love all of the Avengers movies, all the superhero movies. Batman's coming out. I'm going to go see it. Anyways, I love to see all of the heroes. And in this moment, Joseph is the hero. And we can get behind restoration in a physical realm. We love to see, and I love to see this. I love to see people getting healed. Who loves to see people getting healed? I love to see people getting healed. We've seen so many people get healed here every single week. People are getting healed here every single week. We're partnering in prayer on Mondays. Every single week, we're praying before people get in this room. Every single week, we're hosting experiences here. Every single week, youth is meeting here. People are getting healed, and I love to get to see it. But what I've realized about my God is that oftentimes restoration in the physical realm many times begins on the inside. He actually starts off on the inside, and then the overflow or the fruit of it is restoration in our physical lives all around us. This is why Jesus gets down with the man who is paralyzed, who is lowered through the roof, and he says to him, I have forgiven your sins. People are like, whoa, what's going on, man? You can't be forgiving people's sins like that. Who does this man say he is? Some people are probably thinking, well, man, that's awesome, but he still can't walk. What's wrong with that? And God's like, man, but don't you see that I restore from the inside? Don't you see it is so much better for me to save on the inside and then on the outside? Then look what happens a couple of scriptures later. The lame man gets up, takes up his mat, and he begins to walk. But it begins on the inside. Maybe God is wanting to restore something on the inside of you that will overflow into your outside. Maybe he's wanting to restore peace inside of you so that you can bring that into your household. We're sitting here and we're thinking, God, will you restore my household? Will you bring my child back? He's so far away from me. I want them to be closer again. And he's saying, but I need to restore something on the inside of you so that you can be a good father or you can be a good mother. God, would you restore the relationship I have with my siblings? We don't even talk. It seems like every time we come around each other, we're walking on eggshells. And he's saying, I need to restore something on the inside of you so you can be a good brother, you can be a good sister. It begins on the inside, and this is something that Joseph is about to experience. I believe we're about to take a look into some of the portion of Scripture where we see the most humanity of Joseph. We see the most effects of his life, but we also see the struggle and the tension. And Joseph is here for restoration. It's undeniable. Many of us can be here for restoration for everybody else, but when it comes to me, we're like, I want to be in control of the restoration in my life. I don't really want to allow God to come into my heart and to begin to change some things because that's way too invasive. That seems like that's a little bit uncomfortable for me, God. Why would you, wait, hold up, you're getting a little bit too close. I don't think I want to do that. This is how we respond whenever God wants to come and restore something on the inside of us. It's way too invasive for us. But the first thing that you need to realize if we're going to be here for restoration is that God's restoration is here for you. God's restoration is here for you. And guess what? It might not look how you want it to look. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. It's important to be able to realize that. But there are two things that Joseph does within the scriptures that I believe block or prohibit him from being able to experience full restoration on his inside. There are two things that he does that I believe that many of us also do. He holds on, number one. And number two, he hides out. Holding on and hiding out will prevent you from being able to see the restoration God is trying to do on the inside of you. So you can't be here for restoration and here for holding on. Some of us in this room, we've been holding on to something for the past year. Maybe it's been a couple of days. Maybe it's been 20 years. Maybe it's been 50 years. Maybe as far back as our memory can go, we've been holding on to a grudge. We've been holding on to unforgiveness. We've been holding on to pain. We've been holding on to shame. We've been holding on to it, and that doesn't allow God the room to be able to come in and to be able to restore something in your life. And some of us in this room, we've been holding on, and the remedy that many people have come to us and said is just get over it. Just muscle through it. Just be strong. Just think about it a whole bunch, and then maybe you'll get through it. And I'm like, okay. Or you can give it over to God. Or you can release it over to God. It's not about your strength. It's not about your ability. Honestly, I don't really have that kind of trust in every single person in this room to be able to push through something like that. But I do have trust in a God who does restore when we release things over to him. But oftentimes, we want to hold on. Maybe you can't identify it in your life. Maybe what you need to do is your prayer needs to be, God, would you help me identify things in my life and tendencies that I have when I'm holding on to something. He'll reveal it to you. I wish I could just run through all the different tendencies that people can do. I know one of the tendencies that I find whenever I'm holding on to something is I try to prove that I'm not holding on to it. And I realized in my life that if I'm trying to prove that I'm not holding on to something, most likely I'm holding on to something. And so I think this is a trait that can be found in so many different people. I'll be hanging out with someone. They just got out of a relationship. It hurt them. But they're oh, man, nah, this next girl, she's so bad, man. They're like, oh, man, take a look at her Instagram. Oh, look at here. She's so much better. This is so much better for me than the last girl. And they're pushing it so hard. And I'm sitting there and I'm hurting on the inside because I'm like, no, you're still holding on to the pain because guess what? It hurts when you get rejected. It hurts whenever someone leaves you. It hurts when someone breaks up with you. It does. That's the truth. You're holding on. You're saying, oh, well, I got this new job and it's so much better. And oh man, that old job is done. I don't want anything to do with it. And really, you got let go of that job because you were being lazy. You came over to the next job and you're still lazy. But you're like, oh, this is so much better. And it's like, no, man. You're holding on to it. Maybe you grew up and you didn't have a father in your life. I know this one can be so hard for people. It can be so tough. I work with so many teens in South Dallas who don't have fathers in their life. And they come to me and they say, man, I don't give a care about my dad. He's dead to me. I don't even want to see him ever again. I don't want anything to do with him. And they've just convinced themselves in their hearts that they're just so angry at him. They don't want anything to do with him. They're so much better now without. They're saying all the things. And maybe they really are better. But the reality is maybe they're still holding on to something. And maybe that's you. Maybe that's you. We find that Joseph also does this. It's so interesting how traits and behaviors can transcend even through generations from Genesis all the way to now. Take a look at this portion in Scripture. Genesis chapter 41, verse 50 through 52. Joseph is at the moment where he's naming his child. He's naming his child, and this is what he chooses to name his children. Joseph named his first son Manasseh and said, "It's because God has made me forget all my trouble and all my father's household." Maybe. We'll see. Verse 52, the second son, he named Ephraim and said, "It is because God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering." I would much rather be named Ephraim than Manasseh. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Just imagine every single place that you go, you say, "Oh, hey, this is my son." What's your son's name? It's Manasseh. Oh, what does that mean? This is the son his name means God made me forget all of the bad things that happened to me. Oh, wow, that's a pretty serious name, man. Seems like he's holding on. Seems like he's trying to prove to people that, hey, I'm done with him. I don't want anything to do with him. But fast forward a couple of chapters, and he remembers his brothers. He remembers the pain. He remembers it all. But so many of us, we would rather pretend like we don't. We'd rather hold on as much as we can and try to prove to people that we're not holding on, instead of letting go, because the devil would rather you waste your energy and waste your time holding on to something that God is saying, "Would you just release that to me?" Some of us might be overworking ourselves. You might actually be going 1,000 miles an hour and God is saying, "Hold up, my burden is easy and my yoke is light." If you go ahead and just hand that over right over here, you might just find out that your life slows down. You might just find that you were working way too hard to hold on to something and to keep up an image that you weren't. The second thing he does is hides out. When Joseph comes face to face with his brothers don't recognize him. They don't recognize him. But he, the scriptures say, recognized his brother. He recognizes them, but they don't recognize him. And so all along, he puts them through so much pain. He accuses them of being spies. He makes them bring their younger brother in. He holds them in for days. He made one of them go to jail. He makes them bring back their younger brother. He frames the youngest brother for stealing. Like, he goes through so much hiding the whole entire time, wanting to get revenge on his brothers, wanting to get them back. And some of you guys right now in your hearts, you're like, "I just want to get them back so bad. I just want to get them back so bad." I'm praying right now in the name of Jesus that would be released, that no one in this room would walk out of this room feeling like, "I need to get them back. I need revenge." You don't need to see them on Instagram suffering. You don't need to hear stories about them doing bad. That's not what's going to give you peace. The presence of God is what gives you peace. That's what gives you peace. And he's hiding out the entire time. And Joseph does something that is so human. Has anyone ever cried before? Yeah. People don't want to raise their hand for that. Like, "Oh, hold up. Put my hand up, put it down, whatever." No, don't put your hand up. It's okay. Joseph, 2 times throughout the scriptures with his brothers, he steps aside, gets away from everyone, and he cries. This is his humanity. This is the pain, because really, pain hurts. No one needs to hide that. I mean, things happen. People say things. People stab us in the back. People turn their backs on us. People abandon us. I mean, it hurts so bad. And he steps aside and he begins to bawl. But then he comes back out and he puts on this face. He puts on this face because he doesn't want anyone to see that this is really affecting him. And so he's hiding out. And many people in this very room are hiding out. You're trying to hide the pain by doing all the other things, by serving maybe. Maybe it's by being a part of a ministry. Maybe it's by your job. Maybe it's by sex. Maybe it's by drugs. Maybe it's by the drinks. We're trying to hide out so much so no one can see what's really going on the inside. But here's the thing about God. God cannot heal who you're pretending to be. He cannot heal the person you have a mask on. He's trying to look around and say, "I want to get to your heart." But the whole entire time, you have this full-fledged costume on all year round, 365, like it's Halloween every single day. And God's saying, "Would you take off the mask so I can speak straight to the heart?" Stop hiding out. Let me give you 2 things right here. This is going to equip you for the week right here. This is how we're going to combat this. This is how we're going to experience restoration. Who wants to experience restoration in your life? 2 things. Number 1, let loose. Let loose. Number 2, come clean. Joseph had to stop holding on to the past. He had to stop holding on to the pain and let loose and surrender it. See, in the culture, in the world that we live in, there's this twisted misconception that whoever holds on for longer, whoever's bitter the longest, Whoever's the victim, whoever can harbor something against someone else, whoever can rally as many people to cancel another person, whoever can do these things right here has more power. But what I want you to know, that's a false power. That's not from God. That's, matter of fact, that's demonic, because the power of God is in love. The power of God is in forgiveness. This is what my God says. This is what Jesus says. And so if you thought or believed anything else on your life, man, if I can just harbor this against them, I'm more powerful. You're wrong. The devil has lied to you. And today's the day that you start receiving and believing that actually you're true. The most powerful thing that you have is love. To love, to forgive is far greater than to harbor anger and bitterness against anyone. And Joseph comes to a place where he has to realize this, and he has to love his brothers. The second thing that he does is he comes clean. Your honesty might be your greatest step of faith today. Your honesty with God might just be your greatest step of faith today. I don't know why oftentimes we're not honest with God. He knows it all. He already knows it, but we're praying these prayers all around the actual situation and what we're really, it's like, no, man, just be honest with God. The scriptures even say that when we confess, there's healing. And many of us will go through the rest of our lives never being honest, never confessing, and so therefore never receiving healing and never receiving restoration. Come clean. Joseph has to come clean in this moment. And we look into the scriptures, and right here in Genesis chapter 45, he comes clean to his brothers. He can't do it any longer. His brothers are standing face to face in a room just like this, and he starts weeping. He starts crying. He tells all the rest of the Egyptians, get out of the room. All the palace is looking like, what's going on in there? There are rumors going around saying, what is he crying about? What's taking place in this moment? For his brothers who are in the room right there, they probably, imagine they're afraid. This is the second in command of all of Egypt, and he's bawling, crying right in front of me. And Joseph comes out, he comes clean, and he says, I'm your brother. It's me. They're like, I don't even know if I trust this. What do you mean? It's me. I'm your brother. And he says to his brother something so sweet. Come close to me. Come close to me. When they had done so, he said, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold to Egypt. And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here. Because it was to save the lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now, there's been a famine in the land, and for the next 5 years, there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. He comes clean. He comes clean in this moment. And when he comes clean, do you see what happens? There's restoration that comes to him. You can feel he's saying, come close. He's bawling, he's crying. There's this new healing that's come to him at the moment that he says, come close to me. I'm your brother. And then guess what happens? After the restoration comes the revelation of your purpose. He says, I now see why I was here. I now see why I was sent here. At this point, Joseph has been in Egypt for so long, but it's not until this very central moment, this moment that is so wrapped up in humanity, this moment that is so emotional, this moment that is so raw, in this very moment that he comes clean and he lets loose, God restores him. And he reveals the purpose the whole entire time. And there are people in this room who have been searching. They're like, I don't even know what's going on. I don't know why I'm going through this. Let loose. Come clean. Let loose. Unleash it. You don't have to hold on to it anymore. God doesn't want you to hold on to it anymore. He wants to take it from you. Come clean. You don't have to lie about it anymore. I want to take a moment to respond. Would you guys stand to your feet? I believe in the power of prayer. I believe that God has restoration for you. No matter how painful it might feel, no matter how honest you might have to be, there is restoration for every single person in this room, and he might want to start with your heart. God might want to start with the peace restoring on the inside of you. He might want to restore just the forgiveness on the inside of you. He might want to begin to restore the joy on the inside of you. And then watch and see what overflows. Watch and see how that overflows into restored relationships. Watch and see how that overflows into restored courage. Watch and see how that overflows into restored jobs, into restored finances. Just watch and see how when he begins a work of restoration on the inside, he completes it. And the completeness of it is that it overflows into the rest of your life, into all areas of your life. When God begins restoration, here's the beauty of it. God can't just leave a project unfinished. Maybe just think about that for a second. God doesn't leave a project unfinished. And so if you're experiencing a partial restoration, he's not done yet. He's not done yet. I feel like that's for someone in this room. He doesn't just do it half-heartedly. He doesn't only do it partially. And maybe you've been here and you've been waiting for restoration for years, for months, for minutes. Doesn't matter how long it is. None is greater than the other. But God wants to fully restore you today. It's happening right here, right now. Don't wait. Don't waste time. This is your moment. Happy birthday, Authentic. Today we are celebrating our 4-year anniversary. Come on, y'all. I'm super excited about it. Whatever way that you can, however you sing happy birthday, just go ahead and sing happy birthday to Authentic. But in all of that, do not forget. Don't forget the impact. Do not forget how God has moved in and through Authentic for the past 4 years. There are countless testimonies of people's lives who have been changed by the work of God through Authentic. Such a powerful thing. And guess what? Those things happen because people decide to partner together. People decide to partner in so many different ways, and one of the ways that people will partner together is with their finances. And if you'd like to partner with your finances, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can go to authentic.church and give under the Give tab, or you can give through Venmo. Hey, I love you. Don't forget, once again, today's our 4-year. I'm super excited. I'll see you next week.